The views and opinions expressed on Explorers Secrets of the Truth or that of their guests or contributors are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. All information on Explorers Secrets of the Truth is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information on this talk show or website.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Well, take it away, buddy.
Welcome to Explorers Secrets of the Truth, episode 65, Alleged Alien Species That Have Visited Earth. Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my best friend, co-host, Lesson Cabbage. How are you doing?
Frazzled, completely frazzled. As you could see, hey, Norm, as you can see, the background is different. My light isn't on or anything. I've had technical issues off show, I guess you could say. I've had 2 viruses hit my Mac that have been taking my system down, so I had to revert back to defaults, and now I can't get my GoPro camera to get recognized, and it's just been a mess. And but other than that, you know, I've been better. Let's just say. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a little thrown off there because the intro kept cutting out, and then I could hear your chair.
Why not? Why not?
I'm like, I don't know if we're live.
Well,
if
Norm has
what's going on,
had commented there, so we have some people commenting. So I don't know, and that's the thing too. I don't know if we're live on. I'm assuming we're live on Facebook. I don't know if we're live on YouTube because things have just been super chaotic. I've been getting pop-ups throughout the back end here saying that this isn't working because pop-ups aren't allowed. That's not working because pop-ups. I can see our signal strength is barely hanging on there. So if we make it through the night, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a miracle. But we're going to try. We're going to try. So,
well, let's do what we usually do then. So let's tell the audience where they can reach us.
Can I replay the intro? It seemed good. Yes, live on Facebook. Okay, I can't, unfortunately, but you could always check our previous shows on Facebook on our page. There's the intro plays at the beginning of all of them. So hopefully we could get this fixed by next show. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. You can find us at our website, www.explorersgroup.com. You can find us on X at Explorers Group. You could comment live, as Norm is doing tonight, under the show in the comments on either Facebook or YouTube, and it should generate and populate through the back end here, and we hopefully can respond and see you. So if anybody is watching or listening on YouTube, please hit a comment and let's see that it can come through, and we're not gonna hopefully not gonna get anything screwed up. But that's about it. Tell everybody about the show tonight. I know you kind of mentioned it in the intro speech there, but talk a little bit about a little more. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about some of the major alien species that are reported by contactees, and the major reports center around like the Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians. We'll also touch base on some of the other species that have been reported, both being seen on Earth and aboard the ships by the abductees over the years. So, of course, we got to go back to pretty much the like first historical extraterrestrial visitors to Earth stories. And on our last show we had talked about the Anunnaki and how they hybridized the current Homo sapien or whatever that was on Earth at the time, and basically enslaved the human race to mine gold to reestablish their atmosphere for their home planet. And just to kind of a little bit on the Anunnaki, they're an old generation of gods from the planet Nibiru, which in Sumerian the dictionary translates to like it's Jupiter, Mars, and there is
So
like a third definition.
are they
to
saying
it.
that they came from that, from those areas, or is that just where they're defining or where the term comes from?
That's what they're saying. The planet, the name of their planet Nibiru in the translation is like Jupiter, Mars, or it's like another definition for it is like the something ascended or something like that. It's like the planet, the way it goes out of the solar system and comes back in. It's a reference to. So, and here's the thing: it's a speculative translation at best. So, and the name Anunnaki is taken from An, the Sumerian god of the sky. So, of course, they're attributing their gods to the Anunnaki. So, kind of give you an idea what the Anunnaki look like, or what they are claimed to have looked like. They're giants compared to modern men of today, with olive complexion, dark eyes. The men wear their hair in long and in soft waves. I'm not really fashionable, so I don't know what that means, but and their beards are long, curled in rows, and they're coiffed to perfection. They're the Greek god per se of the definition.
I would say
of
that
what
your beard is quite coiffed.
And the worst thing is I don't do anything to it. It's actually very wavy tonight.
It looks so natural, no one can tell.
Yeah, I don't know. Just condition it. I really hardly ever comb it anymore. Yeah. So the women have long wavy hair and dress similar to the Grecian goddesses. And now here's the thing, of course, they always possess superhuman strength. Of course, being gods, they should. And they also are said to have a very powerful presence.
Well, they're super tall, right?
Now,
so I would imagine they would have
interesting.
that kind of superhuman powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, they're saying they're, way larger than if you ever see some of the depictions of what the Sumerians say they look like, they're like 3 times the size of what we believe to be the Sumerian person, in their depictions. So unlike a majority of the human extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki believe in the service to self as kind of like if you want to say religion or moral compass for this group.
I guess you could say signs of what the Anunnaki look like. Quick, while come on,
okay,
not popping up. It's not letting. No. There we go. God,
so
there it's on solo. So can you still hear me, or did it kick me out? All right, good. Sorry, folks. It's just
yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
So now, like I said, they believe in the service to self, and according to these different stories, and I've actually listened to a few of the Anunnaki story translations the last couple nights. They've been basically convicted of breaking many cosmic laws, including creating a slave race on Earth.
That's one thing that we got to pay special attention to is this cosmic law. So remember that, folks. Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
Yeah, and what it said, basically the cosmic law of one, where we are the mirror of each other, and therefore we must treat those who we come in contact with honor, respect, and love. And you'll notice there's a common theme here with Earth visiting species and how they seem to stray from that belief system, that being the Anunnaki. One of the most recognized non-human extraterrestrials known to visit and even inhabit the Earth are the Nordic aliens. And now the Nordic is a name given to an alleged humanoid extraterrestrial. And it's purported to come from the Pleiades, and that basically said to resemble Nordic Scandinavian, according to alleged contactees, to describe them as being 6 to 7 foot tall with long blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. And then the person credited with the first claimed contact with the Nordic aliens comes from the mid 1950s, and his name was George Adamski. And, again, this is alleged contact in the mid 1950s. And scholars note that the mythology of extraterrestrial visitation from that begins with the features described such as like the Aryans that you'll hear a lot of times when it comes to the Nazi propaganda and beliefs. And they're often claimed to be like telepathic and benevolent and, have physical beauty. So basically they're reported similar to Scandinavians, the what was it, the Swedish
I just popped a
team
picture
or whatever
up
it
of
was.
the Nordics.
And if you watch People of Earth, that was the one that worked in the coffee shop as the barista who fell in love with the one contactee. I wanted Wes to use all those
I couldn't
photos
find the
in the
good
show,
ones.
but
they were all like really pixelated. This is the best I could do. This is the one I used in our show thumbnail.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at that, you can kind of see the soft features, the brilliant blue eyes, that long blonde hair, the pale skin.
They were super tall too. 6 to 7 feet tall. So they're big blonde, beautiful people, I guess. And I guess very similar to a lot of the other human extraterrestrial races, which we'll talk a little bit more about. I mean, we're not going to go into full detail, but there's the Argothans, the Anunnaki, which Chad had already talked about. There's Altarians, there Andromedans, 24 Elder of Andromeda. See that, and that's another thing too that we found as we were putting some of the information together for the show tonight is there are so many like subspecies of all the different I guess species or races of aliens that we are going to be talking about tonight, like the human extraterrestrial races. So they're all the alien species that resemble closest to what we look like as human beings. There are so many different variants and offshoots of these. It's ridiculous. Even when we get into the grays, there's so many different variants of that and so on and so forth. So, and I'll give you guys, actually, let me take this down. A lot of the information that we found tonight, as with most of our shows, is this book, The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. And this is the ultimate guide to grays, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordics by Craig Campobasso. And I'm going to put a link under both the YouTube and Facebook show notes with a link to this to Amazon if you guys wanted to purchase it for yourself and check it out. There's a lot of great information in there, but we obviously, with trying to stick to an hour, we kind of had to narrow it down to the three primary species or alien type beings that have been frequenting the planet Earth. So sorry, just wanted to interject there. Yeah. Okay. So, and another thing too with the human extraterrestrials, there's a lot of areas throughout the world that supposedly these species or these beings inhabit. And one of them, and it's not the Nordics, it's not the Anunnaki, it's another, the Lemurians, Lemurians, and they're supposedly known as being a higher dimensional being. They live in the Telos, the crystal city inside of Mount Shasta. So they're, the native species that are over there have a lot of historical stories about these beings. And then there's also down in Antarctica. We were talking about this off air the other day, Chad, about a what was it called, like the hollow Earth theory down in. Do you want to go on a little bit
Yeah,
about
the
that?
Hollow Earth theory. Yeah, yeah. Like it was seen in one of
Mhm.
the Godzilla King Kong movies, something like that, where basically there's this legend of there's a hole in Antarctica which opens into the center of the planet, and actually inside what we feel is the inner part of the planet is actually a whole other biosphere, which actually contains its own sun, and also basically plant life, water, all the elements found
Mhm.
above ground are also found under the ground. And you also think about it kind of gains credibility with the fact that like Antarctica, you can't travel there without
Mhm.
top secret clearances and stuff like that, and government approvals. And all these countries have signed these pacts where they're, no tourism is allowed, it's only scientific, they're only allowed in certain areas. Of course, then there's Operation High Jump, which is always tied to this. Oh, Admiral Byrd went down there and they found the aliens, and that's why he came back and said over the poles would be the
Mhm.
most common route of attack, for I forget how he put it, but it wasn't necessarily like the
Right.
Russians were going to
Right.
attack us over the pole. It was a third party type attack over the poles. And when they say like the inner Earth, type thing, and it's if you believe
Right.
in flat Earth, none of this is possible. So, but there was actually I was watching a short like documentary on the subject, and they basically presented some stuff like just basically the how it was actually shown and talked about in several different cultures spread out through time and history that had no connection to each other. Even their depictions of the world
Mhm.
showed this opening, and then showed different levels of like Earth and different like continents, but then they also showed these
Yeah.
splits that went underground, and had other land masses and
Well,
stuff
there's
in
also,
there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's
It's an
also
interesting
that
theory.
that entrance to a basically a subterranean world. I think it's in China, or it's either in China or one of the Koreas, where there's this giant massive opening into the ground, and there's basically an entire subterranean world down there. And because of the way it's kind of encapsulated within this cave, it has its own atmosphere. There's like a mist, like a rain system that's down there. There's different plant species down there that don't exist up on the surface area anywhere around that area, the surrounding of the it might be,
Are you
yeah,
thinking
it
about the
might be.
cave in
It's like
Vietnam
super
that the
remote and
farmer
hidden.
discovered?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it goes super deep.
it's
Yeah, go
massive.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, he found it. Yeah, and well, yeah, he had found it. It was like on, I guess, his property or something like that, and he had just wandered and like
Mhm.
was wandering through his property, and all of a sudden found the entrance. But it's like the entrance is big enough to, you know, it's probably about
It's
7
super
stories high
wide.
from
Yeah, yep.
ground to ceiling, just the entrance, and it does. Yeah, it's a
Which, if you
massive
think
cave
about it,
system.
it's large
So
enough that you could probably have, and this is really going out on a limb, but it's large enough that you could have spacecraft or some types of flying craft go in and out and access these, subterranean areas,
Mhm.
just like the areas down supposedly in Antarctica,
Yeah.
these giant massive openings that are big enough for, extraterrestrial ships to come in and out of. And supposedly one of the theories that we had stumbled across too is there are multiple extraterrestrial species that are residing in these subterranean worlds in Antarctica. And the Nordics, Greys, and all these ones that we're mentioning tonight are supposed to be already inhabiting this area. And a lot of the world's governments know about it, like to Chad's point before about how it's super locked down. You need certain clearances, like you can't get to this area. Well, even without the clearances, I think it'd be extremely difficult to get to most of those places just because it's freezing down there and is so far out in the middle of the continent. Go ahead.
Well, that's the weird thing is because the story, you know, that goes along with all this is basically
Yep.
there's a mountain range that doesn't really show up on maps. Once you cross the mountain range, the temperature is 74 degrees. Goes from below freezing to 74 degrees, and it becomes like a tropical, like rivers and valleys and stuff like that, where it's green and lush.
Speculation. Yeah.
Again, all alleged, stories. But that actually, you brought up something there, talking about like different races living in the cave system there in Vietnam. If anybody's interested, if you go look up a gentleman by the name of Crito Matua, he was a Zulu living library. I don't know if the man is still alive. Basically, the Zulu living libraries are these um, entrusted elders of the Zulu nation who are given the woman who shapeshifted.
Ooh, interesting.
He killed her when she shapeshifted in front of him. And she was alleged to have been a reptilian, that there was an entrance cave system somewhere in their territory. And she was sent there to bed him down and basically suck the life from him. And I don't know if it was to kill him or maybe get
Yeah.
his seed to take back to their people. But Credo Matua, he was on Coast to Coast AM and stuff years ago. Like I said, I don't know if the gentleman's still alive, but like his history and the knowledge of like the reptilians and other species. But even there in the Zulu nation, they have references to shape-shifting reptilians. Now, they don't necessarily say they're extraterrestrial because to them they
Right.
live
Right.
underground, which again goes back to Hollow Earth or something like that, where there's a whole other biosphere under the ground,
Mhm.
under what we consider the ground, and therefore these races actually are um,
Yeah.
basically terrestrial to them. In their thought process, they don't say aliens, but then there are other legends in Africa and stuff like that where the people speak of coming from the
Mhm.
star people and point out like was it Dog Star or whatever it was, where they actually pointed out or drew a star cluster that we didn't see until much later after they drew it for us, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Yeah, that's the same
Yeah.
cluster
Yeah.
they drew. These are African tribal people without telescopes and stuff like that, but they drew a cluster that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
later found."
Well, Norm actually has a good point there to go along with what we were talking about. Being in the Navy, I always wondered why countries could never agree on much except keeping Antarctica off limits. And that just kind of adds, I think, to the whole mystique and lore that these kind of places could exist down there and these beings could exist down there because it is so hush hush and off limits. Because otherwise, what would the value be of?
Yeah, I mean, it is they basically what we're told is it's this research. It's a research facilities from, I think it's like 9 or 13 countries have research facilities there, and it's the safest way to research certain things. Because it's not anywhere near the exposure to the general population.
You probably
stuff
have
like
a
that, but
perfect whatchamacallit, like a clear shot of the night sky is what I'm getting at. Is like you wouldn't have like light pollution or anything like that. I mean, you'd probably have the best view if you're doing any kind of astrological study, but I don't know what else you would do down there.
yeah, but even think about that then. Why isn't the Arctic
True. Yeah, true.
also off limits? Just kind of counterpointing to what you were saying there is you do have one place in the world where all these massive power countries have agreed that nobody but the people they
That's
say
true.
are allowed to go there.
I don't know. Super bizarre.
It's just odd. I mean, they could have a valid reason. Maybe there's something, they are working on there that if it gets out, it could be a problem. It's always the sci-fi movie where the, Thing or it was Thing with the second one was with Kurt Russell. The original one was something else, but where they defrosted the alien spaceship and the alien escaped and mutated to people and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a very odd circumstance that they would allow one place in the world.
Yeah.
But they're all there. Like all the governments that are in those positions. I mean, what was it? Like, I think it's 9 or 13 countries have established claim, like
Yeah.
research,
And nobody else. Huh. I don't know. It's totally bizarre.
Yeah.
But moving along off of that topic, to the next species or race that is alleged to have visited Earth, and this is the most common, I think, in most people's minds when they think of extraterrestrials visiting our planet, I would say is the Greys. So I'm going to go through a couple different aspects of this race that was based off of the book that I had mentioned, the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. So the Greys are a renegade group originally from the Zeta Reticuli 2 and Reticulum constellation that left their world many thousands of years ago. Some of them were captured and genetically altered by groups in the tyrannical Orion Empire. A short gray averages in height about 4 to 5 feet. Their heads are oversized and they have thin frames, lean arms and legs, and gray skin tone. Their large, dark, bulbous eyes are sinister looking and wrap around their heads. Tall grays, so there's different variations in size here. Tall grays are 6 to 8.5 feet, have bulbous, elongated heads, thin frames, long arms and legs, and range of skin tones from pale white to gray. Their giant, dark insect eyes protrude, and beneath the permanent membrane lenses are huge human-like eyes, which is kind of different from the normal descriptions. And then, so you have the short, you have the tall, and now the taller grays have large, elongated heads and small, pure black eyes. They are more menacing than their counterparts and stand 9 to 12 feet. So their body frames are more human, and the men are muscular naturally. They have darker gray skin tones, and their facial skin is crinkled like crepe paper. So, and I guess kind of their belief system, like we were talking about before with that cosmic law, the Greys believe in complete service to self, kind of like the Anunnaki, at any cost to other species' free will to satisfy their needs. So again, they're renegade groups. They're kind of guerrilla-like, kind of chaotic, and they think they do what they want because it's what they want. So their agenda, the short grays lost their spiritual nature over time from interbreeding and cloning and their pursuit of technology. And they're no longer connected to the spirit. So they're desperately trying to kind of regain that union. and realizing a bit late in the game that if they don't mend their transgressions, that they're doomed for extinction. So they're aligned to the malevolent reptilian Orion group and the tall and taller Greys. And short Greys are responsible for the alien abductions against humanity to upgrade their race. So biologically covered like metallic like implants, and they're inserted into abductees' bodies. Um, Kind of for like a bioengineering program to monitor and track them. So they implant them with these little things, and for anybody who watches any kind of a show or special on alien abduction, that's one of the things that are commonplace, are these little, almost looks like a piece of bone, or like a mother of pearl color kind of piece of bone, or what they say looks like a small shard of metal or something, that's always, you know, so far into a human's skin, or a few layers down, and they're thought to be tracking devices. So they monitor them, they track them, and through telepathic hypnosis, they program their abductees to believe that they are chosen and special, but really they're just kind of guinea pigs. So against the will of humans, the Greys use their gene pool to save their race that is on the precedence of extinction. And they kidnap humans. They use mind control to keep them sedated, extract sperm and ova, and they use female wombs mixed with their genetics as incubators. Then they remove the fetus between 2 and 3 months. And again, commonplace with a lot of the shows that you watch out there. Oh, I was pregnant, and then after so far into, like, after maybe like the first or second trimester, oh, I lost my baby. And then, people say, well, they were never pregnant to begin with, or they're losing their minds and blah, blah, blah. But these people really do believe this. So they remove the fetuses after 2 or 3 months, and they continue to grow them in their labs. And then they repeat the process. And they have no remorse for their actions or empathy for their victims, which is, again, kind of, they're renegades. They're just all about themselves. So these three gray races are diabolical and aggressive creatures. Like I had said, you can keep them away from your vibration by raising your own through spiritual practice. So they are sensitive to the energy around them. We all have energy. Everything has energy. So if you could heighten your vibration through spiritual practice, meditation, connection to source, and kind of shield your multidimensional body with a self-imagined shield of the Archangel Michael. And this is all, again, this is from the book. This is, they will leave our planet once the spiritual vibration has been raised to an octave that their energy can't survive in. So they cannot live where there's love. So no wonder why they thrive on Earth, right? So the Greys race's technical sophistication in genetic engineering is superior. Their overall technological advancements are over 2,000 years ahead of ours. So we're not going to be catching them anytime soon. And they use hyperspace to travel in metallic discuses that are equipped with sophisticated genetic laboratories. Other spaceships are shaped like beehives, which I guess would kind of be like what was that bell-shaped thing that the Germans had? That's it, yeah. So that's kind of beehivey, I guess, wouldn't you say? Bell beehive, yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
So the gray races have both hive and individual minds. So I guess they could think as a group or think individually, which would kind of be pretty weird. So through powerful mind telepathy, they can control and paralyze humans. They place screen memories in the minds of these. They abduct so they do not remember the horrific ordeals that they've had to endure on their medical tables. They are masters of deceit and lies. They possess the power of levitation and can glide across the air. And due to the electromagnetic energy enhancements programmed into their auras, the Greys, like EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities, which is another variant of Gray, are able to tune their frequencies to become invisible and walk through walls. Again, this is all typical to a lot of the abductee show testimonials that you see in a lot of shows out there. Oh, they walked through walls, they came out of nowhere, or they just appeared randomly in the room. And again, this just kind of incites fear. I would imagine that would put your energy at a level that they're comfortable with, and they could kind of almost get more power from your fear, because what's kind of counterpoint to love is hate and fear. So it's putting your energy in a spot that they could kind of almost milk that energy from you and put themselves in a higher position. Um, so just to give you a little bit more insight on the EBEs, the extraterrestrial biological entities, they're said to be biological materials harvested from the Zeta race by draconian reptiles. We'll cover these later, without consent to create a slave race. Um, oh, we're saying no video. Oh, I have this picture up, so let me. There, we're back. Sorry, I just left the picture up too long. I was lost in the notes. Um, so yeah, so they again, and that's another common theme too. Is a lot of these species or races that choose more of defiance against the cosmic law are all about harvesting and creating a subordinate or slave race out of lower species that are out there, which I guess would be like us, because I mean we're not as technologically advanced as they are. So like I was saying, the other gray races are more Moramians, Orions, Zeta humans. Zetas have multiple subspecies. So there's a like Zetas are the grays, and like I said, there's a ton. I mean, there's so many. I didn't want to really list them all because there's tons. But again, the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, you can find that and more. And I will be sharing a link after the show's done. I'll put it out there for anybody who's interested. Come back to the page on Facebook and YouTube, and I'll have that link there for you guys to find that book. So that was the Greys. What do you think?
That's kind of attributed to them, right? When it came to like the EBEs, you know, being able to be invisible, walk through walls, you know, thrive off of fear, stuff like that. If you actually kind of circle that over, even like the, you know, telepathy and mind control end of it, almost circle that back to like paranormal. These are all things that are kind of given to ghosts and spirits and stuff like that. You know, the people hear the voices and like they'll be sitting in a room and hear a voice and nobody else hears it. Then all, you know, they always say like, oh, you know, I saw it and it walked, but it walked through this wall. And everybody always tries to attribute, well, maybe back when it lived, there wasn't a wall there. It was a doorway. It was an opening, something like that. And then, you know, oh, don't be afraid of it because they feed off the fear. And then, you know, that's how they take over, they oppress. It just circling it back, you know, in you know, thought process there is a lot of that almost comes off as like paranormal ghost spirit demon type stuff.
A Bigfoot demon ghost? Yeah. No, that harkens back to Gary Johnson, one of our old viewers. Remember? That was his big thing, was the Bigfoot demon ghost. I miss Gary. I wonder what he's up to.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Now, like you were saying about the hive mind and all that too. Basically, when I think of like that hive mind is for their greater good, and then the individual mind is, hey, we know we need this, you know, this genetic material to, you know, to further our research. And then the individual mind is, okay, this group is assigned that task of finding, collecting, and preserving that material. So the hive needs the individuals are then to set out to create the plan to do.
And you can all
kind of,
and like, also, I mean, think about times of distress or almost you need an escape plan, you know, or you're this little individual alien and you need help. You could connect to the hive, and then more could come. You know what I mean? It's basically like their way of like using a phone, but with telepathy. You know what I mean? You want to get in touch with other people, you link to the hive. You don't, you just go to the single mind. So I don't know.
Yeah. And like you were saying
Mhm.
about like them implanting memories and stuff like that. Um, go back to People of Earth. That's the deer that everybody kept seeing. They kept having the talking
Yeah.
deer was the implanted
Yeah.
memory to cover the abductions. And the gray used to always tell them, "You
Yeah.
are special."
Uh-huh.
Like when they would be on the
Yeah,
ship.
yeah.
So,
Well,
just a
there's
comic
there
part of this, but
Norm has another
you
comment
know,
there that he says "A optometrist said that sometimes implants are in eyes and show up in eye exams. That's true. I saw that on a few of the different shows too, where people would find them like in the corners of the eyes, in like I don't know, like the white section of the eye. They're all over the place. And are there any are there any that are looking out for us? Any of the grays or any alien species at all? From what I read in the book, and again, this is from the book and just from some research online, most of the human-esque races, aside from the Anunnaki, obviously they are serving themselves. Um, most of the human extraterrestrial races are more in line with the cosmic law and are more with observing us and trying to teach us and help move us along. Grays, not so much. Grays are more of kind of like what we said before, is more of and I think we kind of covered it on our last show too, where the grays were our theory was always grays are us, but from the future. And again, like it was saying that they're like 1,000, 2,000 years ahead of us. So that's us from the future, knowing that they screwed up. They need to fix things, so they need to kind of come back, get the parts from us that they had lost from, I guess, de-evolution, because or maybe too fast of evolution. So they need to de-evolve back to where the parts were a little bit more hardy and functional, and then hopefully get their race back to a point where they can continue on, you know. But the Greys are not here to help so much, more here to help themselves. And then the other species that we're going to be getting into, one that we're going to be talking about, I was shocked at the write up, but the other one, the reptilians, again, kind of here for themselves, not here for us. Um, which that's what we're going to be segueing into. Did you have anything else about the Greys or anything, buddy, before we move on?
no, no. Let's start talking about these
Go
reptilian
ahead.
species. So, the most common of these species are the draconians or dracs. Les has mentioned them a couple times already. And the draconians are from the Orion, Sirius, or Draco constellations, and their leaders reside in the Orion
I do.
constellations.
Yep.
You
Sorry.
have a picture of them
Uh,
there,
I'm
Les?
getting lost in your notes there.
Pop that up.
Hold on. Now this, just keep in
Yeah.
mind, this image that I found
Yeah.
is one of the dinosaurian of the reptilians, which I'm sure some people would remember this. I remember this in a lot of books from when I was younger, a kid back in the 80s. In library books, I remember seeing this. Kind of reminds me of a Slee Stack.
Yeah, well, it was the that thing was the creation. If dinosaurs didn't go extinct, how
Yeah.
they would have evolved into
Yes.
human-esque
Yes. I knew it was familiar.
creatures. Yeah. Yeah, if you watch any of those like evolutionary icebergs and stuff like that, that always pops up as one of the conspiracy things or crazy theories. So, but to get back to the draconians, they are of course a cold-blooded creature whose skin is made of scales and bony plates and has the spikes and stuff like that. And the most common colorations are brown, beige, and green, or all one
Yeah.
color. So typical lizard. Some lizards have a little green, some a little brown in them, stuff like that. And there are other variant, combinations of hues. Again, just like lizards, you have the reds, the orange, the yellows, the
Yeah.
green, the aqua, the blue, and the purple.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
iguanas. You know, colors. If you think about it, you see dark brown iguanas, and you see very colorful ones. So, and of course, being this grouping and kind of being a very hostile grouping, they're built with very impressive muscular bodies
right.
built for fighting. And of course, typical lizards, they have clawed fingers and toes. Now they're said to have
Mhm.
4 digits and a thumb. So almost human-esque in the hands in that sense. And then of course, you always get into this. There's subspecies with the 3 fingers and a thumb. And males have distinct mating claws on each thumb used to subdue females and
Hmm.
induce pleasure in their mates. I think
It was
Les
my
just made
Easter
that
egg. You
part up,
found it. You
honestly. I
found
don't
my
think
Easter
that's
egg.
actually in any books. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, they have the reptilian eyes. They're usually green or
Mhm.
blue, but sometimes orange, yellow, brown. It's basically that video that you always see the people on the news, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden the girl's eyes go
Yep.
this way
Was
instead of,
that
up and down.
obviously they could be
Yeah.
easily fake, but they're cool. I
So,
love watching those.
yeah. Now they say males are, 7 to 9 foot tall. The females are about 6 to 7 foot tall. Of course, they have a foul, pungent smell. The odor is described. Well, it's actually designed to weaken
Mhm.
opponents in battle or to repel enemies. Now, of course, they're not emotional creatures. They're warriors. They
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
feel the emotions that humans feel. Now, and of course, now they of course attribute a belief system to them, and they say draconians are staunch believers that they were residents of the universe first, and it belongs to them. They feel superior over every race, especially humans. They teach their children from youth that humans are Drek of the universe, which, I mean, they might not be wrong. Uh, they are not emotionally attached to their young, and they let them fend for themselves. If the child dies due to circumstances, they believe the child was weak and deserved death. Their superiors are the alpha
Mhm.
albino royal drax, and other reptilian species, their subordinates. Uh, they gain power and status through fighting, and will, of course, try to gain a prevalent spot in their clans by war and deceit
Yeah.
and other things to gain status. Now they want to,
Mhm.
basically their agendas, being that they feel they're the first and the original and the universe belongs to them. They want to completely rule the universe.
Again, straying away from the cosmic law.
And they're mhm. And they're it's a fierce, like I said, it's a fierce tyrannical warrior culture, and fear and weakness are aphrodisiacs to them. Again, if they can endure, excellent navigators of universal territories. They have conquered many planets secretly from the inside, master manipulators and puppet masters due to their billions of years of evolution. They alter less evolved civilizations' gene pools to dumb them down and control them from afar.
Dude, it sounds
And
exactly because you always see the things on TV about how our government is ruled by reptilians and stuff like that, or the elites or the Illuminati is this reptilian group. You know what I mean? And think
yeah,
about it, with the education system and everything, and even all the crap that you see on the news is like just the dumbing down of America and stuff like that, and it's just so much of this stuff is just like
well,
sounds about right, you know?
yeah. And being a child of the '80s, all I picture when I'm reading all this, and we were going through this to build the show,
Mhm.
was the show V. The reptilians under and all they wanted humans for, and this is one of the next things
Mhm.
attributed to them, is humans are for food, resources, you know, and they want to control us so they can eat us, and keep us dumb so they can strip the underground resources and territory from our planet and keep the population
Yes.
unaware that they're
Yes.
being controlled. And the draconians alter the perfection of the human body, including the mind, hence through patterns being degenerative, and that human rights to ascend into the grandeur of the universe become inactive. So basically, they're dumbing us down. They're spiritual, they're changing our energies and the planet's energy to kind of keep us at this lower vibration and be able to just work through our planet
Well,
for what they want it
that would
for.
make sense too, because if they're coming down and they're lowering our vibration again, think about it too. Like, what is one thing that seems to be losing its grasp on most of the world is religion. I mean, and you don't have to be a religious person to understand, like, the concept behind most religions is basically be treat people the way you want them to treat you. It's, just basic human decency and morality. You know what I mean? And a lot of that is kind of going out the window anymore.
Mhm.
And not that I mean, I'm not an overly religious person, but I'm just talking about just kindness in general, and all that stuff is just seemed to be going out the window. So you're
Mhm.
go ahead, sorry.
Well, yeah. No, I was agreeing with you on that, and it's just one of those things where if you keep they always attribute it to the government. Oh, if the government keeps us fighting with
Mhm.
each other, then we don't know what
Smoke and
they're
mirrors.
doing. So basically, if they keep the whole planet basically not trusting each other, it always goes back to that Star Trek. The planet has to come together as one before the other aliens will come to us and say, "Okay,
Mhm.
you guys are doing better now. Let's start talking. Let's start interacting. Let's start trading. Let's help each other. Let us get you into further into space so you can come and see our civilizations and take that information back to your group." And then you have the Draconians in that sense of, well, we don't want you doing any of that because the Draconians they feel they're the
Yeah.
superiors to everyone, and they're looking at like they need us to fear them because if we don't fear them, then all of a sudden all we can start moving forward and maybe we're
Yeah.
the ones to replace them. Our human, race and stuff like that because of being basically
Yeah.
gifted from the Anunnaki. Part of the Anunnaki creation story is one of the Anunnaki. We come from his blood and bone. The Homo species that was here at the time was combined with his blood and bone genetic material, and that's eventually how they came up with the
Mhm.
modern human. So maybe being gifted from the Anunnaki, the Draconians look at us as the major threat to come up because if we're not afraid of them, if we have free will and mind,
Yeah.
we make
Yeah.
some pretty good leaders. Now, also, as we're going through all this, I hear historical
Yeah.
attributing factors. Basically, things that I just said about the Draconians are attributed to the Spartans. If a baby dies, it was weak. If the baby doesn't have
Yeah. Yeah.
this, we discard it. It's weak. It's never going to be. So, is some of this stuff just a reflection of our human ancestral past, and we're assigning it to these
Yeah. Yeah.
alleged aliens? You know, and I'm not saying that these things don't exist because, like I said, the Zulus have
Yeah.
reptilians in their folklore. Now, they don't consider them extraterrestrial, they consider them actually subterrestrial, living under the ground. So, you know, is this some of this stuff just historical stuff from our past that we're attributing to these races, to kind of, because again, we don't know if any of this is, fact. I mean, some of this stuff, like, did somebody actually sit down with a draconian and the draconian sit there and say, well, really, I don't think
Yeah. Yeah.
you're anything, and eventually we're going to take over. And so, some of this stuff is attributed to them that may not necessarily be true about these groups. Now, one of the things, like, if you think about the draconian system and stuff like that, they're not looking
Yeah.
for immediate results. This is a slow played out, very planned out carefully to guarantee the success of their species. And of course, now being that they feel they're the oldest, and maybe they are, time is on their side. They're not dealing with mutations and stuff like that we've noted in some of these other groups and genetic issues. So they're basically just slowly getting rid of their competition. And of course, they're said, like we were saying earlier, they rule over the earth from behind this, cosmic curtain. And they're said to have bases on at least 3 bases on our planet. Now, of course, their imperialistic agenda has us deemed as a threat because of our want to explore the universe. So they try to stun our growth at every turn, which brings me to an interesting thing. There's been several of our satellites. There was IS or LS1, I think it was LS1, was a satellite that we sent into a near Earth orbit. They tried launching it 3 times. Third time they finally get it to go, it tumbles off the rocket the way it's supposed to. Then the booster system doesn't engage, and it doesn't fall off of the satellite itself. So they tried a couple things to get it to fall off back in the 60s. It wouldn't fall off. It was sending data for a couple of days, and then it just stopped sending. This is in like 1967. It stopped sending. In 2016, a ham radio operator found the signal, and it is sending data all of a sudden. It's been offline for 50 years. It somehow turned itself back on. There have been other space probes, both Russian and American, that were sent out to like Titan. And when they got close to Titan, they were working fine. All of a sudden they get close to Titan, they shut off. When they got out far enough past Titan that they weren't able to send the data for Titan back,
that's
they turned
bizarre.
back on. One of the Russian ones allegedly crashed into it. It wasn't on a course that it would have taken it directly onto the planet, and somehow it crashed into Titan, the moon of Saturn, I believe. So you also have the thing like the Black Knight satellite that changed orbits years ago somehow on its own, and it's allegedly space debris, but yet it somehow changed its orbit pattern around Earth to a near polar orbit. So are these things that are theirs that they're using to, or like when we're sending out probes, are they knocking them off, jamming the data or whatever, the transmissions, and then allowing it back online so we don't get the information maybe we need? Maybe there's something in that data that's going to be our next giant leap in technology. Maybe that's how we develop a space travel system, but they're knocking it out. Or is it like jamming the frequency when you're, in the military, you're trying to hide something from some other military, you kind of put up things that block signals and jam signals so they can't detect your facility.
All good points, man. Well, it would kind of make sense too, like to go back to what you said, like other alien races and stuff sending probes or satellites, whatever you want to call them, to kind of monitor our planet too, because I mean there's a lot of valuable sources on Earth, like we talked about before, with the Anunnaki supposedly turning us into a slave race to mine gold to rejuvenate their atmosphere. Well, it would kind of make sense to, I mean, if we're trying to send stuff out to find life and monitor other planets and this and that, why not have something to monitor us? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's aliens out there, they have to have some way of keeping an eye on us. Especially like if it's the draconian type thought process. Well, we're food. You got to keep enough of us living to eat us. The Anunnaki for the gold, the grays
Which
for the
going
genetic material.
Yeah,
The
well, going back to
draconians
the
for
draconians, when you were
food.
saying about how they could screw with they could lower our vibrational astral bodies or energy and stuff like that. That kind of makes sense because they're kind of coming here controlling us where their food, or whatever. Um, but then they're also keeping us at that
Mhm.
lower energy where the grays are picking up on that and they're like, oh, hey, we can kind of slip under the radar here because they kind of got that little bit of a history with the draconians and stuff like that, where the draconians were kind of doing the same thing to them. And maybe they're like, all right, well, look, there's this lower species than us. So, well, we're gonna pick at the scraps a little bit too. So maybe the draconians are like, all right, we're tired of these grays. We want something else,
Mhm.
and they're coming after us now, and it's just easy pickings for both. So they're just opening the door for these beings that
Yeah.
could survive in this lower energy spectrum. And you know what I mean? We're just sheep, you know.
Yeah. And of course, like not all draconians are said to be evil. Some have escaped their worlds to live their lives in a peace and elsewhere, or have
Right.
ascended to a higher frequency.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, it's always frequency, like the hippie type stuff there. And of course, like any group, the enlightened ones want us to remember not to judge the individual,
Yeah.
not the race. Again, it's another thought process attributed to a alleged alien race. I keep saying alleged alien race. I'm going to get abducted
Yeah.
one of these days.
Well, there's a lot of comments that are
I
rolling
think
in here, and Ron says going back to one of the stories before. What we were talking about reminds me of Red Eyes stories when I was a kid. Let me bring it up here. I could read it better. Reminds me of Red Eyes stories when I was a kid at local area Boy Scout camp in area around here in the 70s. Is that my neighbor, Ron? Ron, if you're still listening, is that you? Because you could literally walk across the yard and come up and tell us that story. I want to hear more about that. Um, and Susan Lawrence, thank you for tuning in. She says nothing would surprise her about our crappy government. That's for darn sure. And Norm again, he has asked, where did the Anunnaki go? Why do you think they left? And why do you think they left us here? Well, probably they go ahead. You would know better than me.
well, they left at a certain point because they were trying to go back to
Right. That's
Nibiru and fix the atmosphere. Allegedly, it doesn't work. They did return and try to destroy us about 9,000 years ago. 9,000 years would roll around about the time of the Younger Dryas, the floods that happen from the ice melting. So of course that's attributed to them trying to actually kill us off. They kind of want to correct their mistakes. They're allegedly they're trying to mend their cosmic karma. And one of the things they have to kind of do is, by fixing those mistakes, is get rid of the mistakes. And they do say, that they've actually come several different times and tried with cataclysms to erase us off the planet. But also they're trying to balance out their karma. So they've already made the mistake. To destroy the mistake would create a new mistake, which would create this very big paradox of
it'd be a mistake snowball.
So there is actually several alleged translations of the Anunnaki stories on YouTube. I can probably, if I remember, I'll share a link to them tonight. So you guys, if you're interested in the Anunnaki, there's some good stuff out there. Like I said, I've listened to a couple last weeks and relatively interesting. It's a lot of almost religious text reading. So you don't have to read it. It's a video, but it comes across like the Bible. And then they begot, and he begot, and he begot this, and begot that, and then God said, "Kill your kid." And the guy went, okay.
Well, Norm has another good point there too. Like over 1 million people go missing every year, and he says, question food. That is a good question. I mean, a lot of time these people go missing, and the only thing that's left are bizarre remnants of them or pieces of them, and it's kind of out of characteristic to most of the local fauna that would be in that area. So I mean, you never know. Where some people go missing and are never found again. So it's all, again, it's all speculation, but it's all possible, you know? And it is my neighbor, Ron. Ron, you should just come over and sit
Oh
behind
my
me if you
god,
could
I
clear a spot on the couch back there. Got so much crap around the studio that I have to photograph and get out of here, but you're welcome. Always welcome.
speaking of
Mhm,
people, speaking of people that go missing, um,
mhm.
in Alaska, in the Juneau area,
Yes,
right?
yes,
They did that
yes.
movie, The Fifth Kind or whatever,
Yep.
Fourth Kind, with Mila Jovovich. Okay, there's an
Mhm,
actual case, right? That a boy riding his bicycle with his friends basically starts lagging behind his friends. His friends stop and wait for him. They wait about 10, 15 minutes, and could only be about 5 minutes behind him. So they wait
mhm.
15 minutes. They can't find him. They pedal back on the
Yeah.
trail they were on, find his bike, can't find him. People start searching for him, and within a day or so, they find his shoes. They found his bike and his shoes. That's all they ever found. Fast
Yeah.
forward 20 years. His brother and his friends are out snowmobiling. Brother is lagging behind due to
Mhm.
something with his snowmobile. So his buddies get out ahead of him. A couple of them turn around and go back for him. They find his snowmobile, but all the snow around it is perfectly smooth, except for where it's sitting. There's no trail into
Hmm.
where the snowmobile is. Now they had also ridden through the same area. They never find either of them. They both, two brothers within 20 years, disappear in a
That
similar
is
case,
bizarre.
a similar way. Yeah. And that's, again, that goes back to the high number of UFO sightings and stuff in the Juneau, Alaska area, which is kind of why they based the movie there. And then they did all the fake
Mhm.
media stuff about it. But, the city of Juneau actually sued them for it. And they've had to come out and tell everybody it wasn't true. But that's two brothers. So same genetics, 20 years apart, both disappear, and in such ways that the only thing that's found is what they were on. Now, the one brother, they did find his shoes. The other brother, they didn't find anything else but the snowmobile, and yet everything around the snowmobile was flattened. Like there was no trail in the snow.
That's that's bizarre. That
Yeah, and there's no predatory like animals like,
could be a
oh, a
Thunderbird.
bear got him. Well, there'd be bear
I mean, the
prints.
Thunderbird is really big in Alaska, the Thunderbird stories, so, if it's as big as they say it is and they flap
Yeah.
down and kind of blow the snow around to cover up trail and tracks and stuff like that, swoop down, get the person, and take off. I mean, it's a huge
Could
stretch, but
be.
you just said there's nothing out
Yes.
there that could, but the Thunderbird, if it does exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it
Exactly,
is as
exactly.
plausible as a UFO
That's true.
abducting them from the middle of the,
But
you know,
something to that
out
extent, I would definitely
outdoors.
put my money
So,
on,
yeah,
extraterrestrial.
yeah. So now
Mhm.
kind of getting back into the Draconians as I drifted there. Their ships are either disc or box shaped. And although their technology is organic, it's programmed with a dark consciousness and
So
evil intent.
yeah, I mean, geez, even
So they're
their
just all around the back,
their vehicles, their ships are even evil essence.
which also, yeah, if you're into the Star Wars, like the post Star Wars, the original three movies, the books they wrote with the Wu Zhanvong, the ships were organic and they were actually this like evil, almost reptilian race. So it kind of, just kind of a reference point for all that. And now some of the like just kind of real quick caps on this here. They're said to be shapeshifters, and they can actually go into other dimensions, including the astral plane. They can project their consciousness into a body that they want to control. They pick up on lower vibration humans whose auras are compromised due to smoking, drinking, and drug abuse. Again, you can circle that back to the paranormal. It's a demon.
The demon Bigfoot ghost.
Yeah. And when they impregnate women, the Draconians camouflage themselves as handsome human men having sex with them in their dreams or in altered states. The Dracs then harvest the fetus, again, within 2 to 3 months of the breeding. Female Dracs do the same to human men, succubus, incubus.
Just so for any listener out there, Chad and I are not the mysterious draconian handsome mystery men, but we will haunt your dreams. So
well, at least one of us isn't. Never mind. And of course, the abduction process, they implant false memories. They can manipulate the mind or body into dreaming or into the astral plane. And they will also attack people while they're there, instilling tremendous amounts of fear upon waking. And the Dracs, of course, being evil, they feed off the trauma, and that gives them power and it boosts their ego. And they're said to have mind speak, but without the transference of true feelings.
Which again kind of circles back to the Greys too, where the Greys have, they feed off of the negative, they do the mind speak to control. It's there's so many similarities between these. So
yeah. And again, like I said, they're able to go into different dimensions, so they're able to hide their crafts in dimensional time pockets, not to be confused with dimensional hot pockets. And of course, these are realms not known to man.
Well, you got me good on that one. Dimensional hot pockets. There's a hot pocket floating through space. Oh, that was good. That was rich. Thank you for that.
And of course, they use antimatter for their travel propulsion systems, like black holes and wormholes and stuff like that to trek in between the galaxies. And just kind of give you some ideas of other ones that are alleged to exist. Dinosaurians, the aforementioned Alpha Albino Royal Dracs, the Dragon Dracs, the Zeta Dracs, Eol Reptoids, the Iguanoids, the Lizard People, and the Reptarians.
Yeah, which there's so many more out there too, but those are a lot of the big ones.
Yeah. That's, you could probably sit down with the amount of information that, from that book and other things out there, other eyewitness accounts, you could probably come up with 3-4 hours of information on each species, and subspecies could be another 2 hours.
Oh man. So those are actually 3 of the big species or most common species of aliens that have visited Earth or allegedly. So the next thing that we're going to be talking, and this is going to be short because we are way past our hour, but I want to continue with this. So as long as you people want to hang around and listen, we're going to keep talking. And it's good to see that Norm is a fellow Pennsylvanian. You're on the west side, we're the east side, so no hate, no hate. Have you ever been to Parmenti Brothers, and have you ever had one of their giant sandwiches with the chicken coleslaw and French fries and all that? I want one of them so bad. So the next race or species that we're going to be talking about are the if I could bring them up, the Sassani, Sassani beings, and they're from a parallel Earth 300 years in the future. The humans of that version of Earth lost their way in their dimension and destroyed their planet. So they let me get that off of the screen right now because we don't need that up there anymore. Um yeah, they lost their way in the dimension. They destroyed their planet and they mutated into the Greys to survive, but could no longer reproduce, and they were dying out. So, since our DNA was close to theirs, they visited our timeline for genetic material. So it's kind of similar to with the other Greys we were talking about, and they crossbred with us to create the following hybrids that would allow their culture to continue. So, hybrid one, small Greys, are known as the maize. uh, Hybrid 2, taller Greys, are known as the Mizani. Hybrid 3, the Sasani, which I just brought up, beings are half human, half gray. Hybrid 4 are the Shah Yael beings and are slightly more human looking. Hybrid 5 is the Yael beings, and they're very human like. Hybrid 6, Earth humans becoming the sixth hybrid race. So we are the hybrid race. Hey, Indianapolis, cool. Thanks for joining, Susan. Um, and hybrid 7 is the Anu Het, a blending of all six of the hybrid species in about 1,000 years. So they do have a kinship with us due to the hybridization, and they have the and this one I thought was super interesting because in the previous episode and a lot of other episodes that when we covered extraterrestrials or aliens, and anybody who watches anything on TV with aliens, these are the ones with the triangular ships with the lights at the tips. And we were just talking about them with like the Marfa lights and the Phoenix lights, the UFOs over PA.
Phoenix
Our
lights.
last episode, we were talking about a lot of these ships that were triangular, lights on the tips, and all that stuff. And I think we covered that too a lot with the in the Bridgewater Triangle episode too. A lot of the spacecrafts that they were reporting in that area, yeah, triangle with the lights on the end. So
Yep,
I
or
thought that was kind
triangles.
of cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, which, like we've always said, is kind of what we've always kind of thought was the whole future human, coming back to collect the, bacteria and stuff for their stomachs and the genetic material from current humans because they lost stuff over the space travel and time frames and stuff like that, and the lack of gravity. And
Go ahead.
so
Sorry,
it
I
really
keep
kind
cutting
of
off.
no, go
Well,
ahead.
it kind of
It's okay. Go ahead.
like our theory. We were saying that this is that the Greys are futuristic humans, like our race in the future, come back, just a different evolved. But if you ever watch one of those videos where supposedly a government group was questioning a Grey, and they're like, "What are you?" and they're like, "We are you, just more evolved." Well, what do you mean you can't comprehend it? Like they're saying that we wouldn't understand. Maybe pretty close, I'm telling you.
Did
I
he
was
really
spot
sound like
on.
that?
Maybe it is one of these. What he was trying to say, or the alien in question was trying to say, is it's part of us and part of them. Like we are this hybrid thousands of years in the future, and even though they hybridized with us, like maybe in this timeline or maybe hundreds of years before us, we're the beginning process of it, and we ourselves are a hybrid, you know, and then you take I guess we'd be like the Anunnaki hybrid, and then you take some of that gray and mix it in there. So there's all these hybridizations, and then the grays get so far into the future where they're like, oh, we can't go anymore. So they need some of this hybrid DNA from us. I don't know. So maybe it is kind of us from the future, but just a variant of us. Actually, it is exactly what that alien was saying in that interrogation. So I never really picked up on it because I was just like,
Mhm.
all right, well, it's obviously this is bullshit video, whatever. But I enjoyed watching it. But I was like, oh, well, what are they getting at in this? This could be the answer, for all I know. But
Mhm.
we are coming up on an hour and a half, and if you guys still want to stick with us, we'd appreciate it. Um, we do have one more species that we want to cover, and this is the one that I thought was kind of opposite of what I thought it would have been. So you want to cover that one, Chad?
Various interdimensional folds of
Mhm.
space. They exist in the Andromeda and Orion constellations and others beyond that humans can identify. The mantis beings are 7 to 10 foot tall, and the ones in the astral world can be as large
Jesus.
as a football field. The various variants are scattered throughout the universe, but all of them have the basic mantis face and bodies akin to their
Now, just
counterparts
not
on
not to
Earth,
interrupt, just keep in mind that
except they're
these mantis beings are in the animal and insect races of aliens. If you didn't pick up on that already.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you
This
have a picture
this
at
isn't the
all?
best one that I was able to find. Well, it's like
Okay.
the only one, but it's kind of hokey. But you guys will get the point.
Yeah,
Look at him; he's so cute.
yeah, and of course, yeah, and they stand upright. Their faces are long, triangular shaped with large, slanted, upright black eyes, a sharp, pointed beak, and two slits for nostrils. Their arms and legs are extra long, with three-pronged hands and feet that have pads on the bottom for grasping. With an extremely bony exoskeleton, their long necks are able to bend at impossible angles. They are, they are an authoritative race and delegate duties to others on board their crafts. They communicate by clicking as well as high pitched sounds. And mantis beings have emotions, but because they are unable to use facial expressions like humans do, some might think they are detached and unfeeling. One would have to be telepathic to connect to their interworld to feel and sense their emotions. And they are very dedicated and serious while performing their cosmic duties on board crafts, but they are also very
Mhm.
playful and childlike, but not childish.
Yeah,
And of course, they believe in the cosmic law of one.
which I don't know. Did I put in the
Now, their
the
lives are
description of the cosmic law? I don't know if I added that. I had it. I just had it here in the book. So you keep reading. I'm going to find out what the common law is. So it's basically all is one and one is all. Like everybody is to everything is done to be for the benefit of all. Really is the cosmic law.
mm,
Sorry, that's it. You can go ahead.
and yeah, they're dedicated to living the light frequencies. Their intention is to hold that fluid frequency in order for all beings to
Yeah,
align in universal unification. So they are the the good side of
yeah.
the
They're the light
yin
side
to
of
the
the
yang
force, not the
of the
dark side.
draconians, basically. Yeah. Well, it depends how you look at that, because the Sith aren't necessarily the
True.
evil in that whole equation.
Which which I
That's
could
more of
get
a
on
Star
that topic
Warsy
for
thing, though.
hours. If you wanna open up that can of worms.
Yeah. Um, they're more drawn to the feminine, the mother principle of the universe. If this race had a dynasty, there would be a queen, but instead they revere men and women as equals. And there's some reported state that they have been seen in the background of abduction cases alongside Greys, either facilitating or um, protecting the abductees. They do harvest human DNA to study our genetics and examine the human soul in its many facets, including reincarnation
Which is
cycles.
interesting.
Yeah, again, this is like some of the stuff. It just seems like stuff we attribute to a group in thought process of like hey, if there's humans that do this, there has to be somebody in this
Right, right. It's like
cosmic
a big
equation
giant
that
theory
also
sandwich smushed
feels
down
this way.
into layers.
Yeah. And their technology, basically motherships, starships, they have fleet ships and scout ships. All their crafts have a command center that uses a
Which that'd be
biological
interesting to see.
supercomputer. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
just like a big processing brain, or some kind of. Oh, wasn't it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in Dune they use the worms, not the
Yep, yep,
worms,
yep, yep, yep.
the
Like,
slug things or whatever
yeah,
to
yeah.
do the navigation. So, and they also have some telepathic systems set up on their ships, and they can initiate out of body experiences for humans, which is quite interesting. Like, basically, all these alien species seem to have a way to bring
Yeah,
humans
yeah.
out into the astral planes.
Well, it all
You
kind of
know,
goes in line with telepathy and mind control and all the whole works. So
yeah. No, they're fully conscious and they have a sovereign society. And they, besides using the telepathic um, communication, they again have the hive mind by choice and also have developed singular mind. They can enter in their
hmm,
species hive mind and exit at will. So basically, they can separate themselves from their
yeah,
species thought process. And while in the hive mind, they can converse with others, share experiences, expand on teachings, and more. And they think of
yeah,
it
yeah,
like
yeah.
the mind internet. So basically, it's their ability to kind of tap into each other, share, their reports on, hey, we went and probed these humans last night, and this is what we found in their
More
butts.
insects.
Uh, you know,
Yeah, this
yeah,
is butt bugs.
they had bugs. I
Well,
don't know. I don't know why they became
when it comes
hillbilly
to butt play.
aliens. Um, but they're very smart. They have extremely intelligent minds that are very powerful in the sense of they are looking for um,
Hmm.
universal harmony, and they want everybody to kind of play their parts in it. And they kind of see themselves as the aligners, and they want to ensure all the cosmic symphony um, instruments are in tune, so everybody's frequencies are right, and this group is doing their part, and that group is doing its part. So, and they kind of also have this ability to sense like discord in sectors of the universe and send the frequencies to those areas
Yeah.
to kind of realign and heal them. So they're really kind of like the loving um, group of aliens that we were kind of looking for earlier when we were saying like which ones are out there to help us. These are more what you would think of in the helping and loving
But
group.
what I find is weird
So
is
they
I always remembered seeing shows and listening to stories about the mantis-esque creatures, kind of like the female praying mantis, like eating the heads off the mates and stuff like that. That these were the ones that were always like the human eaters and
Mhm.
the barbaric and crazy, terrifying. And now these are the ones that are supposedly the most caring and loving and there to protect us.
Well, if you think about like them and
Yeah, yeah.
the reptilians are always the bad people. Like, but if you think about it, they're the things that
True.
look
So
least
in
like
our
us.
minds, we create that they're different, they're the enemy. But if you look like me, we're friends. We have that
Yeah,
kinship, but yet they're the ones ripping us apart from the
yeah.
inside out, trying to save themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like sometimes these perceptions, what we're led to believe by cartoons
Mhm.
and sci-fi movies and stuff like that could sometimes be some of these other groups implanting a story in somebody's head. This person writes the story down, it gets, somebody else gets the
Mhm.
story, they make a movie out of it or cartoon, and we got to make this race look like the bad people. So when they do finally meet that race, they instantly trigger a memory of those are the bad
Right,
people.
right.
They've always been the bad people. So they do love to astral travel. They like visiting universal temples of learning in every dimension. When a group of mantis beings are ready to transit from the sixth dimension to the sixth dimension being astral travel to the seventh dimension being the learning center, and prepare themselves for the next transition of their consciousness development. So basically, they are the Buddhist of the
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind
alien
of where
world.
my mind went. Yeah.
They're looking for, yeah, they're looking for intelligence and understanding and loving and learning and developing and helping
Yeah.
the balance of the force. I almost said it there.
Well, Norm has a good question there.
So
Do the reptilians eat the mantis like on in nature on Earth?
I would think I
Yeah,
mean,
or vice
again,
versa, because I mean,
speculative, but I would say
I've seen so
yeah.
many videos online where praying mantises were like eating lizards and stuff like that. Like they catch them and they start like eating the top of their head into their brain, and then they just start devouring them. Mantises are pretty wild creatures.
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess the bigger
Yeah,
ones
I get.
catch
Yeah,
a
that'd be
smaller of the other. You know, in a in some kind of combat, if there's a smaller reptilian
vice
out there and there's a
versa.
larger mantis
Yeah,
and they happen to cross paths, yeah, you might be able to eat one or two, but you
yeah,
think
it's
about
much
the number
higher.
of lizards that eat bugs.
Good question though,
Yeah.
because they all, they were saying about the reptilians are eating us, so something's got to eat them. It's just the hierarchy of the food chain or the cosmic food chain.
Mhm. And they're said to exist from the 6th to 12th dimension, and they're able to step down their energies to appear in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th dimensions as well. And here's the
Just like we were
thing, they
talking about
use
in the last
crystals.
show.
Yep, the crystals and stuff like that. So, are that's who's maybe probing those areas looking for the crystals that are left
Mhm.
over, the quartz and stuff like that. You know, so they're said to use those to actually transition from one
Which
dimension to the
that
other.
alone, like the different dimensions, just makes my brain hurt. Like 12th dimension, what could possibly be in the 12th dimension? Like what would that be? That's just it's mind boggling. We're the fourth dimension, right? And the
Mm,
fifth, sixth,
yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, we are just the smallest fraction in. Oh God.
So,
Hmm.
they are a highly evolved race, and they work in realms and dimensions that humans can't
Case
begin to
and
understand.
point. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as
The
exampled by
the
us.
lower of the of the
Not saying that
species
actually either, but
here. So that in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, we just went from like 7 viewers to 1. Everybody dropped out there. That in a nutshell is the show on alien species allegedly found on Earth. So we thank everybody for tuning in. We've had a great time. I apologize for some of the technical issues in the beginning. I like we always say, if it weren't for technical issues, we wouldn't have a show. Um, So yeah, I think the next show that we cover, we're kind of sticking on the UFO extraterrestrial theme. And the next show is going to be world famous alien abduction cases. So, keep us in mind for that. That'll be in 2 weeks from now. And that would put us at, what is today? The 19th, January 2nd, I believe, would be the next show. So yeah, tune in January 2nd.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about world's most
Yeah.
famous alien abduction cases. We covered a lot of them in the past, so we're going to try and find some abduction cases that are famous, but yet ones that we haven't talked about already. Um, that said, thank you everybody for tuning in. Chad, as always, thank you for being by my side through for these shows and in life. So I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Chad.
Yep. Merry Christmas and
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and
Yeah.
all those other
Yeah,
holidays.
whatever holiday you celebrate, enjoy it, have a great time, and be safe. And Susan, thank you for enjoying the watching us. And I apologize for the rocky start, but that's how it always is for us. But Merry Christmas, everybody, and we will see you on January 2nd. Good night.